Alright, things look good. Hello everyone, Artemu the Violet Wizard here. And today we are continuing the Pokémon Sapphire Nuzlocke. Which, considering in that it is currently Friday the 13th that we are recording this session, hopefully things don't get too crazy here. Last time, we managed to defeat our own father, Norman, earning ourselves our 5th gym badge. Only 3 remain before we're able to take on the Pokemon League. So this time, we are going to be continuing our exploration of the Hoenn region now that we have access to the move Surf, being able to open up so many more pathways and giving us more opportunities to gather items and catch some new Pokemon for our team. And believe me when I say I have a lot of plans for what we are going to be doing in this session. Especially with regards to one particular encounter we'll eventually get to see. But for now, let's just continue to make our way and to see what we are able to discover around the water. Now, we have come back to Route 110 because there is some more things we can do here that we weren't able to access before. So, now that we have access to Surf, you're able to explore a little bit of the waters around here, but there isn't really a whole lot we're able to get besides one thing that we missed in the last session. So we can go to this little island here and pick up a rare candy. That is definitely very nice. You want to pick up as many rare candies as you can when you're exploring through this area, cause yeah. There's tons of these hidden all throughout the region, and you'll want as many as you can. So we were previously here in order to access New Mauville in the last session, which we obviously went to in order to complete a side quest, as well as catch our newest team member, which is Zappercorn the Electrode. As I said before, electric-type Pokemon are really useful in the Hoenn region, so definitely make sure you have one of these when you are doing these kind of runs. Whether it's Electrode, Electrike, Magnemite, Plusle, Minun, and maybe some other Pokemon we'll eventually get to see later on in this adventure. And that's what I wanted to say on that. It's always pretty annoying back in these early games seeing electric types getting paralyzed. That was a change they made starting in Generation 6, where electric types have a passive immunity to being paralyzed. So they're completely unaffected by moves like Thunder Wave or abilities like Static. It's definitely a nice change of pace that is very fitting for the electric type, since they are very much associated with paralysis as a status ailment. Kind of similar to how poison types are immune to poison and how fire types are immune to being burned. Alright, so we're going to be resting up in Mauville City to cure this little status on Zappy. And I do want to note that I did visit Mauville in the time between the last session and the current one in order to swap our bikes for something that we're going to be doing in a bit. So we're going to be having the Mach bike equipped for a little bit. We're not going to worry too much about our bikes for the time being, but we will want to come back to switch them around. So I want to show there hasn't been too much of a change as far as the Pokemon we're currently using, especially in terms of our backup. And everyone's pretty much around the same levels I want them to. But do note that in between the sessions, I did level up Gulliver, so now that we have a Pelipper, knocking that encounter off of our list of Pokemon we'll be encountering eventually, as this area has a lot of different water areas we can explore, and we'll definitely be running into Pelipper out there, so it's definitely good to get that knocked out. So, what I want to do here at the first part of this session, we want to come back to Route 118, as there is a specific Pokemon I want to catch in this area that we can only get with the Good Rod. Now, there are patches of grass that we can find on this route on the other side of the river, and it could be a good opportunity to go over there if you want to add Electrike to your team. And it'd certainly be a Pokemon I would like to catch, but there is a very specific Pokemon I want to catch on this route, as this is going to increase our chances of getting another Pokemon later on. And yeah, I have definitely been planning what I wanted to do with these encounters for quite a few days. It has been a little while since the last session, because obviously I've had to do some work earlier this week. And considering what a big break from work I had the last couple of days, yeah, I definitely am grateful that I have at least a little bit of time off here. So got ourselves a Carvanha. So we want to be careful with you. You're level 11. I'm not sure if you have enough HP to survive a Sonic Boom. Probably, but I don't want to take any chances here with you. Let's go ahead and use this Dive Ball that we got in an earlier session. I don't know if there's an increased chance of catching all water types, but it was certainly effective at this Carvanha. So, Carvanha! You can start getting these guys once you've obtained the Good Rod. If anything invades Carvanha's territory, it will swarm and tear at the intruder with its pointed fangs. On its own, however, this Pokemon turns suddenly timid. I kind of have an idea for a name we could give you, even though it might not be the best. It's thought we could call you Jolene. I don't know why, I just thought like that would be a fun name for you, since you're obviously a Pokemon associated with big bitey jaws. So yeah, this one could be a good teammate for you. Kinda tricky to recommend one in a Nuzlocke run, since it's a very fast Pokemon and certainly very strong, but it is very far. Okay, yeah, you had like over 30 HP, so you could have survived a Sonic Boom, but that wasn't ultimately necessary. Now, just give me a moment to put this away in my spreadsheet that I have set up. But yeah, this is certainly a decent team member. They are pretty frail, but they are very fast and good damage dealers. Obviously, you can see there, it's mostly a physical attacker. And it doesn't really have too much of a benefit from its... doesn't benefit too much from its stab typing, since Water and Dark are unfortunately both special in this game. But it shouldn't take too long to evolve, since they evolve at level 30. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Yep, still a good Pokemon. I'll definitely try to train you up in a bit. But there is one other Pokemon that we definitely want to go for. Now that we managed to knock that Carvanha off the list. And hello, Javier. Welcome to the stream. Happy to see you here. Alright, so the next thing we want to do, we actually want to head around to Foliber Town, as I know that area is going to have a lot that we are going to want to check on. And we're going to need to withdraw a Pokemon that has Rock Smash if we're going to be heading up this way. Alright, so let's bring Mickey back into the party, as he is our designated HM user. Always nice to have him around, also because he can pick up items. And for the next leg of our adventure, I'm kind of thinking we want to switch Titania into the front of our party. Just because she's level 31 and she is very close to something we'll be able to get for her that's a very nice power-up. I could use a rare candy on her and just immediately get this, but we don't need to worry too much about it. She will naturally level up over the course of our session here, so it's not too much of a worry. Now, in terms of other water areas that we can see, I also want to show off how our secret base is doing since last time. Picked up a couple bricks over at the Slateport Market, and I used those as a place where I could place our dolls. And also want to show that if we access our PC, we can add some plants that I purchased over by the flower shop by Rustboro City. So that gives you a nice way to decorate your base. A couple plants. Very nice. So, I don't know, I'm thinking we'll probably want to move our secret base to another location. We got a lot of places coming up that have a lot of potential spots where we can have a secret base set up. So, probably want to think about that a bit later. We're not going to worry too much about secret bases in the near future. That's not anything we need to worry about in this sesh. Alright, now we're back over here by Folliber, because there are some new things we could probably get now that we have access to Surf. First of all, I want to show, if we go in the water here, we can see that there is a big waterfall here on the northern part of this route. Sadly, our Pokemon do know how to surf, but they cannot get past waterfalls. So we're not able to climb that for the time being. It's also a pretty remote island over here if you want to have a secret base in a more elusive spot. There aren't any items we can grab over here, though. And I'm pretty sure there aren't any items on the eastern side of this little lake here. Just want to be thorough when exploring these areas, because you never know what items you can get. Nope, there isn't anything we can find there. So I believe if you surf on the surface of the water there, you are able to encounter Meryl. And if you were to try fishing in that water with a Great Rod, you are now capable of finding Barboach, which are pretty solid Pokemon. They are water ground type, which I said before is a really good typing in this game, since you don't really need to worry too much about encountering grass types on your opponent's teams here. So it could be a very nice teammate if you hadn't previously caught anything on Route 114. But moving past here, we can now access Meteor Falls. This area definitely has quite a bit we can see, but probably not at this current time. If you surf on the water here, you can, wow, encounter a really high-level Lunatone here. Except you can also encounter Zubats over the water, too. I don't believe there's any water types you can encounter on the surface, but you should be able to fish up Magikarp here regardless. As I said before, there is something we'll eventually be able to see in this area, where I could recommend saving your encounter here until much later. But for now, just want to deal with this thing. It's very high level, so it'd give us a lot of good experience should Titania take it out. Alright, very good. One more hit should do it. Bam! And getting pretty lucky on those Iron Tails, which I'm quite happy about. Oh, yeah, that gave a lot of good experience. We'll use up our regular potion. We don't need to worry too much about those. We can see there's this giant waterfall here that we cannot do much about. And so I'm pretty sure... No, there's nothing over there. So yeah, Meteor Falls here is an area that we are definitely going to want to explore later. Damn, that thing is level 34! It's one of the highest level wild Pokemon we've encountered so far. And it's just a puny Zubat, too. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely an area you want to visit later. Especially if you want to try and get a very rare encounter in this area that we're not going to be seeing for quite a while. But trust me when I say it is a very useful encounter. It's going to be a while before we're able to fully explore this place, though. So I do just want to quickly make note of that. So we go over this way. There is again some water over there, but we cannot reach it as there are some boulders blocking our path. So we're just going to mosey out of here. Please get out of here now. Come on, the exit's like right there. At least we're getting experience for Titania, because she definitely needs the experience. Okay. So we are back on Route 115, as this is yet another area that we explored a little bit about, but we're able to access more of this route now that we've acquired Surf. And believe me when I say there's quite a bit we can see over here. It's got some more areas where you can find potential secret bases. However, there's a lot more to this area than meets the eye, as we'll be seeing in just a bit. There's another secret base tree you can make here. And considering some of the fights around here, yeah, probably going to switch Titania out of the lead, considering what we're going to be doing here. You, my Machop, demand a battle! It's got some more trainers we can deal with over here, so it's a good opportunity to get some level ups. From Koichi here, got ourselves the standard Machop, so we're going to be relying on Gladys for this one. But, man, I really did not intend to hit Secret Power. I meant to do Wing Attack against you. But we should be fine. Not expecting too many rough surprises from this guy. And after his Machop, we got ourselves a Machoke. Could definitely be a scary encounter, but... oh. That is not good. Ugh! Okay, I don't believe this thing gets a priority move, so we should be able to just take you out. God, such a ruffian! God, that was the closest we have came to a fatality in so long in this journey. God. So you're definitely gonna need some medical attention, Gladys. You take that super potion. Much appreciated. And I believe we're still gonna want Gladys in the front for this guy over here. You seem rather capable. Let me keep you company. So this old guy secluded in the trees here is an expert. Experts are pretty much gonna be the equivalent of black belts, but usually a bit more formidable. These guys are typically portrayed as being experts of combat. You would probably know them in the later games as the equivalent of the veteran class. So that gives you a... ooh, that was close. I know I could pretty much be guaranteed to take you out here. Yeah, this thing shouldn't have any priority moves since it already used Fake Out. So let's just finish you. God, Gladys is really taking a beating here. Doesn't help that I have hollow bones! Alright, let's get you to 32. Thankfully done with that. God, we are coming to some really close calls here, which I do not want to see. But yeah, that Hariyama we encounter is definitely formidable. It's the evolution of Makuhita. Definitely has a lot of HP, which can make it a very formidable encounter to deal with. If we head over this way, we have some elusive grass that we can find on this route. Yeah, only just now are we able to access an area where we can get normal encounters here. Pretty weird that they would tuck the grass so far into a remote section of this route, but whatever, gives us an opportunity to potentially find a new teammate. Though, from what I know of the encounters here, I'm not suspecting it's going to be anything too useful to us. So we obviously got a couple birds over here. So we got Talo as well as Swablu. But I believe there is one other Pokemon we can find on this route. And I'm pretty sure it's exclusive to this area too. So it's not too important for us to get, but it would be nice to knock out another encounter. And also it's a good opportunity to level up Titania, since there's not much these birds are going to be doing to her, and she can just get a lot of good experience this way. So I've been very excited for this. Like, we've had this little rock dinosaur for a good chunk of our adventure. Like, we caught her in the second session we did. And, wow, actually able to run into Wild Swellow here. Which I guess makes sense. But yeah, we definitely had Titania around for a long time, and she has not evolved in the entirety of our time together. Yeah, Aron is definitely well known for taking a while to evolve compared to some other Pokemon. For good reason, it's just a very good Pokemon, especially when it's fully evolved. So having to deal with it having pretty okay stats early on definitely makes it worth it for when we eventually get to see it finally grow up. And I'm definitely excited for this. Among other things we could potentially see here. Alright, we got one more use of Rock Tomb. Then I guess we'll be sticking with Iron Tail, as I don't want to be spending too much time using Takedown. If we were lucky and managed to get Rockhead on Titania, then we wouldn't have to worry about the recoil damage from Takedown, but sadly we ended up getting a not-so-good ability in Sturdy. But if you're playing the later games, Sturdy is really good. Like, if you get a Sturdy Aron in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, then that can be really good. Being able to just shrug off a fatal blow as long as you have max HP, that is really good. Oh, come on. Don't do this to me. I've already had to endure a lot of this when I was training up on Route 114 to level up a lot of my Pokemon earlier. But thankfully, I shouldn't have to worry too much about training on wild Pokemon in the future. Because a nice thing that happens after you get the Balance Badge from your father is that this unlocks the ability to rematch trainers that you had previously encountered. So there are a set number of NPCs that get recorded in your Pokénav's Trainer's Eye feature. And if you check that every once in a while, after you have managed to defeat your father, you can see that there are some trainers that will want to have a rematch with you. And if you go fight those trainers, you are obviously able to get some battles with them. And they'll typically be using higher level Pokemon compared to when you initially fought them. So it's definitely a good way to train up. And also a good way to grind some money as well. But after all that, Titania has finally evolved into Lairon. And now we just gotta wait 10 more levels for you to evolve again. I feel much stronger now. This is good. Very nice. Okay, let's pull you out of the front and give Zapricorn the lead here. Since we're mostly dealing with birds, he would be a good fit for this area. It's certainly taken a while for us to encounter the one other Pokemon we can get in this route. It's not even one I feel is going to be necessary for us, but I just want to encounter it to show that it's here. definitely want to get some levels up on Zappercorn, as he's going to be very useful in the next gym coming up. So, obviously a good idea to train you as much as we can. As well as our rock Pokemon, because they'll be pretty good as well. Though, of course, there are some other Pokemon I want to prepare for the next gym, for reasons that will become evident much later. Yeah, I figured it would definitely be a rarer Pokemon in this area. Which is funny, because I know for a fact this isn't even going to be the rarest Pokemon we're going to be seeing in this area. Oh, we could also run into Wingull here. Not like that's anything special. We've previously encountered Wingull a good deal on this adventure. I managed to catch one in the last session. So that's another Pokemon we can just take out. So I guess while we're hunting for this thing, what is something else that we can talk about? Yeah, that would definitely be a fun thing to potentially see. Pretty recently I've been doing pretty well. Like I said before, this is a day off from in between some work periods that I'm going to have to do. Sadly, I am going to be working this weekend, but shouldn't be too bad. I got a decent break after that. So hopefully we should get at least one new session in next week. Yeah, it's kind of going to be a bit of a busier schedule coming up, so we're not going to be able to have too many more stream sessions in the near future. But we'll at least have plenty of time to prepare for some of the other things we're going to be doing in a bit. Alright, I got Zappercorn a level. Yeah, we could take an opportunity to level up Fillet here while we do some searching. So I've just been enjoying my day off. Got some pizza earlier for lunch, as that tends to be what I get every Friday, typically. It was not the healthiest meal, but, you know, it's something that I like to have. And in terms of some other stuff we've been doing, so pretty recently I've been spending some more time playing through the Pokemon Soul Silver file that I've been playing recently, as I've definitely been feeling eager to play some more of that due to a certain Let's Player I follow named Chugger Conroy has been going through his own run of Soul Silver recently, and it's been very fun getting to go through that game again. Especially with what I've been able to do recently, as managed to clear up all the stuff with Team Rocket at the radio tower, and now I've basically just been training up my team to get them ready for the battle in Blackthorn City in order to get our final gym badge, which has certainly been pretty neat. Like, one of the things I did was I caught a Swinub, and I've just been training it up the last couple of days in order to get it evolved and prepared for the fight to come, as well as the rest of my team that I plan on using. So they've been an interesting run, as I've been just catching a lot of Pokemon and just seeing which ones have the most beneficial natures that I feel would be nice to build a team with. And yeah, just been a fun time going through that again. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for the Johto games, even though I don't really visit them that much compared to some of the later games in the series. But they're still a really good time, and I've just been really having a blast watching Emil's latest videos that he posted. Like, he managed to add 2 new team members very recently in his Let's Play that have been pretty cool. Like, he added a Chinchou to his team, as having a water-electric type is a very good fit for him. But the lucky son of a gun managed to find a shiny Nidoran male, and has decided to add that to his team. Just crazy, this guy's luck, especially when it comes to him doing Let's Plays of the Johto games, where he manages to encounter a shiny in those specific games. Just God. The dude is definitely well known for his crazy amount of luck, but that was definitely a very good one. And also managed to catch the legendary Beast Entei and Raikou, which is definitely a very nice achievement for him, as he only has 5 badges currently. That's definitely another nice thing that he was able to do pretty recently. Definitely been getting a kick from his videos lately. And also from the collab channel he does called The Runaway Guys, where he's been playing through the Nintendo 64 Mario Party games very recently, alongside his friends Tim and Claire. And they managed to do some pretty good progress lately. Like, they finished up the board called Westernland, which is definitely a very fun board, and my god, Emil just got a clean sweep of that game. It's just crazy how much he, like, dominated that particular game. So yeah, that's definitely been very fun to check out lately. God, I was expecting to spend today trying to hunt down a very specific encounter, and this was not the one I was anticipating. Also not very keen on the fact that Fillet's not being able to one-hit KO the Swablu. Like, I know they're mostly a defensive Pokemon, and that definitely conflicts with Gyarados' main offensive stats, but you know, it's not too bad, all things considered. You don't have to worry about this thing's doing too much damage to us, thankfully. Especially because Fillet is Intimidate. Okay, we gotta level up on Fillet. Now, sadly, Liam is not going to be very useful here due to being a grass type, so... And I'm not too sure I want to use too much of Mickey at the moment, because you're mostly our HM user right now. But we'll keep searching in the grass, see if we can get this thing to appear. Which is really weird, considering just... I was not expecting this one to take so long. Obviously, if you're using Dexnav and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, that can help you get some rarer encounters pretty easily, as those tend to pop up pretty well if you're using Dexnav. There you are! Finally managed to encounter you. So this is Jigglypuff. It is a normal type, though if you're playing... Oh, come on. Though if you're playing Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it would be a normal fairy type. So this thing is basically an HP tank, as it's got a lot of HP. The rest of its stats really aren't that great. However, I will say that as far as normal types go, this one is quite good with the amount of different moves it can learn. Like, it's got a really diverse move pool. It can get a lot of really good attacks that can be really beneficial. And just have a good spread of different damaging attacks. Just go for a regular Pokeball against you. I'm not expecting anything too major. And it's one of the only Pokemon in this game that will evolve using the Moonstone. The only other one we can catch in the main story being Skitty. So it's definitely a good option if you want to use this one. When this Pokemon sings, it never pauses to breathe. If it's in a battle against an opponent that does not easily fall asleep, Jigglypuff cannot breathe, endangering its life. So yeah, don't send this thing out against a Whismur then. Also, yeah, as Javier saying in the chat, according to that one Super Bowl ad, this is indeed Lady Gaga's favorite Pokemon. I mean, I guess it's pretty fitting. You know what? In honor of that, we are gonna call you Poker Face. I think that'd be an interesting idea for a name for this particular Pokemon. Yeah, that was certainly something. We trained up a good chunk of our team while we were taking care of that. So now we can finally grab some berries over here. So these are Kelpsy berries. So this is a very special type of berry compared to the ones we've encountered previously, as these ones are actually good for lowering the effort values of your Pokemon that you may have accumulated from doing battles, which is certainly good if you want to try and EV train your Pokemon, as they can only have a certain number of effort values at any one time. So using those berries to lower certain effort values that you don't need, so you can build up the effort values that you do want, is a very nice strategy you can do. And of course, these could also be used as Pokeblock ingredients. Oh, it's actually listed here as a Pokeblock ingredient. So does it not have its usual effect? That is very weird. It specifically states that it's just a Pokeblock ingredient. None of the other useful berries we have would say that. Huh. I wonder if it was a later game that actually gave it its usual quality. Yeah, that is a weird one. Well, can maybe see some use for that in a bit. There's also a lot of spots where you can set up secret bases over here, which is definitely something. It's a very remote section of the region, so with just having so many different points where you can have secret bases, yeah, that's certainly weird. Anyway, the reason I wanted to grab the Mach Bike is that we can use it to go up here onto this section of the mountain. And we can pick a pretty remote iron over here. So I don't believe there's any hidden items we need to worry about here. But yeah, we grabbed that vitamin as well as a TM that we'll definitely want to mention. Okay, that's it for everything we can do here. Alright, so that TM we picked up is Focus Punch. It's actually the move we saw Norman use against us in our gym battle. So that attack is certainly unique. It's a very damaging attack, but it has the very awkward effect where if you are struck by a direct attack while your Pokemon is charging up the Focus Punch, your Pokemon will lose focus and not be able to actually use the move. So it's definitely a very interesting one. So it's certainly good if you have a Pokemon that can put a Pokemon to sleep. Like, it certainly does well with Breloom, as it's able to make good use of that. But besides that, there really isn't much else to it. It's certainly a good move, but not one we're probably going to be using in this run. Okay, we've gotten some pretty good levels on our team here. So we're definitely going to want Filet for Surf. Zapricorn could be pretty nice. So I'm thinking of some of the things we're going to be dealing with in a bit. Yeah, we can bring over Granite. Let's give you some action. And And yeah, I want to say Blocky could be good. And I'm thinking that we aren't going to be needing Mickey in this next area we're going to, so we can put you away for now. Just kind of thinking about our options here and what we're going to be doing, as we still have quite a bit we're going to be showing off in this session. God, we're already 40 minutes in, and we didn't get to the main event that I wanted to dedicate this session towards. Oh, damn, you're naughty. So that improves your physical attack. So that could be nice if you want to go for a more physical build on this Pokemon, though it's really not suited to doing physical damage compared to some of its other options. Naughty Nature, and you have Cute Charm. So, back in the day, I actually did a Nuzlocke run in Alpha Sapphire back in the day, where I was actually using a Jigglypuff in that run, since it's one of the rare times where I could actually use a fairy type in that game. And she was actually quite good. Obviously, being a fairy type was nice, and was able to give her a lot of good special moves from TMs to really help her out in battle. And one of the other things that was especially good that we did was... actually, we can give Zappercorn a bit of a break. So I do want to bring Shari back in. I feel like you'd be nice to have around to intimidate opponents. But yeah, I actually did use a Jigglypuff back then. And another fun thing with using Jigglypuff in the Gen 6 games is that it also gets an alternate ability called Competitive, which increases the Pokemon's special attack stat if the opponent lowers its stats for whatever reason. Since a lot of enemies tend to use moves like Growl and Leer against my Pokemon during a lot of the time, it definitely helped to give our Jigglypuff a good chance against a lot of Pokemon. Just being able to get free boost to her stats and then just be able to dominate opponents. That was definitely a very fun addition to our run there. And I actually did manage to bring her all the way to the end, got her to the Hall of Fame, as one of the late game opponents we'll be facing does use a Pokemon that's weak to Fairy, so that was definitely very nice for us to get to do in that run. Definitely helped improve the Jigglypuff line in my eyes quite a bit, especially when it comes to Nuzlocke runs. If you're using it in the later games, when it has access to competitive and the fairy typing, it is a pretty good Pokemon. And in fact, I was actually using a Jigglypuff back when I did a normal-only run of Pokemon Scarlet. And she was certainly a very good team member during that run, thanks to being one of my few normal types that also gets Fairy as a typing. That was certainly very good to see. Alright, so now we're back over by Verdant Turf. We're going to want to dart all the way back to... Actually, I think there might be something we can grab over here. Let's check with the item finder. Okay, there's nothing over there. And there's nothing in that pond. Okay, so there's nothing else we can see here. But I believe if we head back up here by the Wind Straits, there might actually be some more items we can get. Yeah, I completely forgot about this the last time we were in this area, but there is a pond here by the Wind Straits. And we can use this to find more items. There's also opportunity to catch Meryl here if you haven't caught anything on this route. But honestly, I prefer to catch the Pokemon in the desert, because there is a lot of exclusive Pokemon there you can catch. So we can grab an HP up here. Very good. Definitely want to see who that would be beneficial towards. So definitely want to give that to a Pokemon that I'm expecting to tank a lot of hits. So let's give that to Blocky. And we'll also give you an Iron to improve your defenses even more. Okay, I got that rare candy. And I feel that would be pretty useful for something we're going to be doing in a bit. But for now, we're not going to be worrying about that. Because I have alternate ideas on what we are going to be doing here. Just take care of this Meryl. So, from our exploration of the Hoenn region, we have pretty much explored everything we are able to do in the western half of the region after acquiring Surf. So this whole chunk of the region has been thoroughly explored, and we've gotten everything we can currently do here. Besides a few things that we are going to be saving for a bit later. So now, it's finally time that we head over to the eastern half of the region. Before we do that, I want to head back into Rydals, as I want to switch to the Acro Bike for something we're going to be doing pretty soon. Also, before going forward, I want to note that I grabbed a couple repels, as I feel those would be very useful in the next area we're going to be going to, in order to help us try to encounter a specific Pokemon. This will be very evident pretty soon. Also, look over here, we got ourselves a certain duo that we're very familiar with. So yeah, let's switch Blocky in here. Go challenge these two. Oh, you're Hoenn. Hi! Do you remember us from last time? Can you show us how much stronger you become? Okay, cue interview! So we got another area where we can encounter Gabby and Ty. And I believe there is one more area that we can encounter these two in. After you've managed to get the encounters against these two in all three areas, they will reset their locations back to where you initially fought them on Route 111. And then you can continuously battle them over and over for experience. Which is certainly a good way to train up your team. Just be careful because their Pokemon do level up in between fights, and can be quite nasty if they manage to overpower you at a certain point. We shouldn't have to worry too much about that. It's a Blocky finish off this Magnemite, and we are done. Good work, you two. That was an intense battle. Did you get all that on camera? Enjoy! Do you remember that's the quote you gave us as the battle clincher last time? I never ever forget stuff like that. Anyway, what do you think? Do you want to be interviewed again? Yeah, sure. So in this battle, we finish things off with our ground type. So I was thinking... So kind of thinking about our various things here. Yeah, we want to do this with status. As I was thinking, that battle was a real Sandstream. So yeah, good opportunity to get to fight these two again. Certainly beneficial to our team, as yeah, we still need a couple more levels for what's going to be coming up. Let's go ahead and heal up Liam. I know I used a super potion on him instead of a regular potion, but I don't know, at this point it just seems fine to do. Ooh, we got more iron here. Definitely be careful when checking around this area, because you never know what items you can find. So give that to Blocky again. It's actually pretty funny. Earlier, I was training my Soul Silver team against an NPC where every time that you defeat him, you're able to get a bottle of iron as a reward from beating him. And since you're able to continuously challenge him to battles, as long as it is a certain time of a specific day, you're just able to get an infinite supply of iron. So I was using that to buff up the defense of my Pokemon that I was using. And then when I reached the point where I didn't need it to use any more iron, I was just starting to sell them at the shop for extra money. Which is definitely a good use for our resources that we've been gathering in that game. Alright, we're able to level up to 32. So Liam is getting pretty close to something that'll be very beneficial to him. So yeah, at this point, we're going to want to get our starters up to level 36. We have a lot of areas we can explore at this point, so it gives us ample opportunity to be able to train them up. We head over here. Oh, look who it is! Hi, you're that trainer I met in Dewford. Oh, okay, you're Hayden. I'll remember it. Hayden, in this vast world, there are many kinds of Pokemon. They come in many types. Do you raise different types, or do you raise only Pokemon of a certain type? What do you think as a trainer? Sorry, it's not my place to ask, is it? Well, anyway, I hope to see you again. And there he goes. It's quite nice getting to see Steven again, especially knowing what I do about this particular NPC. Bird Pokemon that fly elegantly in the sky. They're the best. So over here we got ourselves a new trainer class to fight, Bird Keepers. Bird Keepers will of course use bird Pokemon, so they'll typically be using flying types, and this is not a good selection for Granite here. I was hoping this guy would use a Pokemon that wasn't part water, but yeah, I'm not risking it. Let's just go over to Shari. Definitely want to get some level ups on you. I've been kind of thinking about what Pokemon we currently have that would be useful to bring to the very end of the game. And thinking more and more of it, I think Shari would actually be a good fit for a final team, depending on how things go. Like, between having Intimidate and her typing being super effective against one of the major bosses we're eventually going to encounter, yeah, I feel like she would be a good fit for the grand finale, depending on how things go. Like, obviously, I have a lot of attachment to our team, but still going to be a while before I truly get a good sense for what our final team formation is going to be. Especially given some of the Pokemon we have still yet to catch in this game that could still be really useful to us. It's going to be using Granite against this Bird Keeper here. Just got the Talo family, so it's going to be no problem for our big boulder. Yeah, I actually did acknowledge that earlier, Javier. At the start of the stream, I did note that it is indeed Friday the 13th. Which, as we all know, is the best day to be doing something like this. But regardless, we still got quite the ways to go before we are done here. It's kind of weird to think about, like, at this point, we have 5 badges. We only need 3 more until we are ready to challenge the Pokemon League and end this challenge. So it's just kind of weird to think that we are getting so close to the end of this adventure. It feels like it only just started. Like, I know we started around mid-January, and now we're mid-February. Oh man, the time really does fly, doesn't it? So yeah, we can see here we could have encountered Electrike on this route, which certainly would have been a good encounter. It's a very fast electric type. It's really good at doing damage. And I did use the Electrike line back when I played Emerald on my Twitch channel way back in the day. But I decided to pass on them so that we could try our hand at getting a certain other Pokemon coming up that I am really excited for us to get. We can pick up some citrus berries over there. Citrus berries are very similar to orange berries, except that they restore 30 HP instead of 10. Of course, in the later games, this has changed to them restoring a quarter of a Pokemon's max HP from use. So that's certainly a nice upgrade for this specific berry. I would highly recommend cultivating these if you are playing through Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But now that we're up here, we have reached Route 119. So for this area, I'm going to be casting repels as we go through the grass here. This is one of the few areas where we can actually get rain. So we'll definitely be seeing this quite a bit in this area. Yep, I want to head over here because this route has a specific Pokemon that you can find here. There's actually quite a few Pokemon that can be obtained in this area, and certainly some rare ones we could potentially go for. However, I specifically want to try and catch a Pokemon that can only be caught in the water. So, in the water around this area, you're able to fish up Magikarp. You can also fish up Carvanha here, which is why I wanted to catch a Carvanha on the previous route, in order to knock that encounter off of our list of encounters. And I did this because I want to trigger an encounter with a very specific Pokemon here. So, to go into the mechanics of this particular Pokemon, it can only be found on 6 specific tiles on this route. And the location of these Pokemon is dependent on the trendy saying at Doofer Town, believe it or not. Every time the trendy saying changes over on Dewford Island, that will cause these 6 tiles on this route to change. So just searching around here, you want to be persistent when checking the water. And you just want to try and be persistent with reeling this thing up. This one can obviously take a while to actually get to appear. But if you're persistent, you should be able to actually get it to appear. It has a 50% chance of showing up on one of the 6 tiles, so you definitely want to be... just be patient. But I'm going for this specifically because I feel it would be really nice to use this specific Pokemon in this kind of challenge. But again, it's a very elusive one, and I'm not too sure if we're actually going to be able to encounter it here. I mean, as long as we're persistent, we should get it. Yeah, this wouldn't be too bad, except there are quite a few water tiles on this route. So you're definitely going to be spending a good amount of time hunting for this thing. Luckily, depending on how things go, there should be at least one of these 6 tiles in this part of the river. So we're just going to be persistent over here. While we're doing this, what's some other things that we can discuss? So, pretty recently I've been going through some more of Final Fantasy VII Remake, as that's been a game that I wanted to obviously pour a lot of time into after all these years. And I've steadily been making some good progress through that game, as very recently, the last session I did, in that, I managed to get through the first visit to Wall Market in that game, which is quite the fun portion of the game to get to experience, cause, oh man, they definitely make that sequence a heck of a lot more involved in the remake compared to the original game. Like, the original game had a lot of stuff you had to do in Wall Market as well, but there was definitely quite a few things added in Remake that definitely made the experience there pretty interesting. Like, getting all these new NPCs to interact with, like Chocobo Sam and Madam M. You have this sequence where you have to enter a tournament in order to gain a favor from somebody, and also to earn the money to be able to afford a dress. And it was just a very cool sequence, especially the part at the end of the tournament where you fight a certain enemy that in the original Final Fantasy VII was just a random encounter that you could get on the way to Wall Market in Sector 6. Where it's an enemy that takes the form of a giant mechanical house. And just seeing that thing as a potential enemy was just so flippin' fun to actually get to experience. Yeah, having that as a boss encounter, that was really cool. I definitely dug that a lot. Especially because that fight definitely wasn't easy. Because that thing was just throwing, like, missiles made out of chairs at you, and also shove, like, exploding teddy bears and stuff. Yeah, it was definitely a pretty interesting encounter in that game. I had a heck of a lot of fun doing that particular fight. And, of course, there was the sequence where, of course, Cloud has to dress and drag in order to infiltrate Don Corneo's mansion. And in order to be picked for having some alone time with the Don in order to get some information out of him. And they're just very fun too, because that whole sequence is a good opportunity to have Tifa and Aerith interacting more than they did in the original game. And I really love what they do with Aerith and Tifa's characterization when they're together. Like, they just instantly click, and they form a pretty strong bond really early on of having to deal with all the stuff involving Corneo. You know, where they both obviously have a lot of love and respect for Cloud. They care about him deeply. And that also just manifests this very strong friendship between the two, where they pretty much become ride or die companions. And it's very fun to get to see in this game. So yeah, I'm definitely quite happy about that, and definitely excited to get into the next portion of the game, as we're going to be going through the sewers between Sector 6 and Sector 7, and that sequence is going to be pretty interesting, especially because of one boss encounter that we are going to be seeing pretty soon. So that's going to be fun to eventually get through. As well as some of the other stuff coming up that I know is going to happen in this game. Trust me when I say that Final Fantasy VII Remake, it goes crazy, and I love it for it. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Square's been doing really well when it comes to making their games these days, especially the JRPGs. But speaking of games, there's been some pretty interesting news lately involving a lot of games that have been revealed that I think is quite interesting. So PlayStation had their State of Play announcements earlier this week, and There's quite a few different things that came up that were quite interesting. For one, like, Konami is surprisingly doing quite a bit, where they're releasing some of the older Metal Gear Solid games that haven't had re-release in a long time. So it's cool to see, like, Metal Gear Solid 4 getting much more accessible these days. And also they announced, what was it? Oh yeah, they announced a new Castlevania game being worked on, and from the trailer I think that it has some really good potential. Just, I think the art style is very cool. The fact that we are gonna be playing as a female Belmont in that game, just very cool. This really takes me back to when I was playing the Bloodstained games a couple years ago, as those were games made by the creator of the Castlevania games, from what I remember correctly, or at least one of the game directors for the old school Castlevania games. And those were quite fun to get to experience. I've actually been meaning to stream the Bloodstained games on this channel eventually, but we'll get around to it eventually. I obviously have some other priorities that I want to do, but yeah, I do eventually want to get around to streaming those here. So probably after I do a run of those games, just as practice, then we'll get a shot at actually playing them here. It'll take me a bit to do. And of course, one of the announcements I was really excited for, given I'm such a fan of this particular series, is they announced an anniversary, a re-release of the original Rayman game from back on the PS1. So seeing that being more accessible on modern consoles, especially with some more quality of life features, is definitely going to be a blast. I never played through the original Rayman, though I have a lot of experience with Rayman 2 and Rayman 3, so I'm obviously quite the fan of this particular series. And I am definitely excited to see what we're eventually going to just to get to experience this release again. Like, I think the game is actually released now, so we could play through it pretty soon. So I am thinking I do want to stream that game at some point, but we're probably going to wait a bit before I do that, as I tend to only stream a game if I've actually beaten it at least once. So we'll definitely be checking on that particular game in a bit. It'll be something I'm quite interested in, even though I've been focusing on some other stuff lately I want to do. Like, currently I've been shuffling through Final Fantasy VII Remake. I've also been diving into Celeste every now and then. And I'm also playing through Pokemon Heart Gold, as that's a game that, well, playing through Heart Gold and Soul Silver, due to that being a focus of one of the channels I've been following recently. So yeah, I'll definitely find some time to play some other stuff that I feel would be a good fit for this channel at some point soon. Like, I definitely have a lot of ideas for games I want to play on this channel. Sadly, some of them aren't going to be happening for quite a while, but yeah, once I eventually get around to it, I feel like we're going to have a pretty fun time going through some of the stuff I've been meaning to play here for so long. I feel it's going to be good. God, this hunt has certainly been taking a while, but that is to be expected with this particular encounter. It is definitely one of the rougher ones to get, though there is actually, if you're playing through Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, this Pokemon is much easier to encounter, as they have basically a guaranteed encounter rate if you're fishing in specific spots on the route. Though, It's not anything that's going to be relevant to us here in this particular game. I guess something else I could mention based on the version differences. So I was talking a bit about using Deck Snap to encounter certain Pokemon easier, and that feature is just really good because, again, also gives you info on whether a specific Pokemon you encounter will have egg moves, what level it will be, whether it has a certain ability, and whether it has held items. And that actually relates to a Pokemon I mentioned before, which is Pelipper. If you're playing through Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, use the Deck Snap to hunt Pelipper, as those Pokemon have a chance of holding an item called a Lucky Egg. And the Lucky Egg is very useful, as that item has the ability to double the experience points of the Pokemon that holds it, making it incredibly useful at being able to level up your team. It is such a good item. I highly recommend managing to steal one from a Pelipper. Oh yeah, didn't you know that, Javier? I feel like that's a pretty well-known fact among the Pokemon community, that you can get Lucky Eggs from Pelipper in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But yeah, that is such a useful way to level up your team. Highly recommend going for that. Something there we could have gotten. So I know that there are some fish around here, and there's one specific one that I want to see if we could get you to appear. Nope, just more of these guys. Yeah, we're definitely gonna be here a while. God, going through this portion of the game right now, it's strangely enough making me recall when I did that stream session earlier where I was trying to see if I could do the dog racetrack in The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and try to see if I could get the blue dog to actually win the race. Sadly, I didn't manage to get it any higher than like 5th place, but it was still a fun hour spent trying to do that particular challenge. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling those kind of vibes here, dealing with these encounters. Oh, you think you're so special neutralizing my Intimidate? Get out of here. Only think of the amount of effort values we're getting from beating up these Pokemon here. Because I believe Magikarp will give Speed IVs. I think, given that its only stat that's of any note is Speed. So I think you could get Attack EVs from Carvanha here. And then Tentacool, I believe, gives Special Defense. I'm not too sure. But yeah, that is also something to consider when doing Nuzlocke runs, trying to gather specific effort values on your Pokemon if you want to raise certain stats a certain way. It could certainly be a helpful way to maximize your chances against certain opponents. Like, I feel like the best stats to raise up if you're going for effort value training is to do speed and your offensive stats, so either attack or special attack. Besides, that's really not that important for completing a Nuzlocke run. Like, I never really had an opportunity where I felt like Oh, I am not surviving this encounter unless I specifically train my Pokemon so that its speed stat is this level. Now, I really didn't feel like that's overly necessary in these kind of challenges. And also, part of the fun of doing these challenges is just trying to complete the game using whatever Pokemon you feel would be the most beneficial to use in a run. Like, I've definitely gotten a lot of good use out of the team we managed to build here, and even getting to show the strengths of some of the more underpowered Pokemon that you may not want to consider for a regular run of these games. Like, Mightyena been certainly very good at being able to weaken certain opponents, as well as our Gyarados. It's definitely a very fun and unique challenge. One that I feel like every player who has played for the Pokemon games should experience at some point, in order to really get a feel for what these kind of games could be if you try to restrict how much you're able to use in the game, and just trying to use certain underpowered Pokemon that you might not have used before. We are already over an hour and 15 minutes into this stream here. I am definitely thinking that we are probably going to go over our usual time just hunting this specific Pokemon. Like, I know I challenged myself on this. I thought it would be fun for us to try to do this. And that fun was under heavy quotation marks. Isn't too bad. It's just a nice chill time. We're getting to level up our Pokemon while we're doing this too, which is certainly going to be useful for the next gym coming up. Also, I would like to mention, with regards to the Pokemon that we are hunting here, if you are looking to add this Pokemon to your team, I highly recommend that you pick up the Pokeblock case from the contest hall, as that's actually pretty integral to raising up this particular Pokemon, should you manage to catch it for your team. So I guess pretty recently, I could mention that my buddy Master Starman had posted a video recently in his Let's Play of Pikmin 2 that I found a bit interesting for a few reasons. For one, there was a particular moment that made me go, "Are you kidding me?" at because one of the treasures you're able to pick up in that game is a stick of dongo, which is a Japanese treat where it's free flavored balls and on a stick. But he called that item a kebab, and I was just like thinking, really, dude? Which is especially funny because we played Monster Hunter Rise together, and like the main food you're able to get in that game to improve your stats is dongo. So like, I do not know why he confused those different types of food together. Yeah, that was a pretty funny moment that I saw from his run there. Man, I hope we don't spend too much longer on this, because I was thinking about some other things we could get done in this session, because we got a pretty lengthy amount of stuff we can do on Route 119. It's a pretty big area with a lot of battles that we can do, and actually quite a few pretty interesting encounters, especially when it comes to the plot in this game, but yeah, this has certainly taken a while for us to get the one Pokemon that I came on this route to catch. Why do I do this to myself? Guess something else I could say is we are very close to Pokemon Day, which is February 27th, and that's sure to be a very interesting day, because I highly suspect that we are going to get the announcements for the next set of main Pokemon games this year. And that's certainly going to be an interesting time when these finally get revealed. I definitely have high hopes for what we're going to see with the new games, because I quite like Scarlet and Violet, especially with the way the games play on the Switch 2, how they run so much better compared to on the Switch 1. And Legends Arceus, Legends ZA was a pretty good time as well. I still need to go back to that game to finish up the DLC, but I still have a lot of fondness for that particular game. So I don't really know how I would rank the various Nintendo Switch games, though I am fairly positive on a lot of them. I definitely say the weakest games released on the Switch would definitely be Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Like, they're still fine games. I just feel like compared to a lot of others, they're not quite as... What do I want to say? They're not quite as ambitious compared to a lot of other games that released before and especially since. I liked Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee quite a bit more than I was expecting, considering that those are games that have the catching mechanics of Pokemon Go. But just getting to experience another version of the Kanto games was a fun time. I definitely had my fun with those games. I would definitely say I'm one of the few people who actually like Sword and Shield. I think those games are quite good, especially for building your team, as they have a lot of good quality of life features, and the roster in that game, especially with the DLC, is so good. And there's a lot of easy opportunities to be able to encounter and even shiny hunt legendaries in that game. So I definitely have a lot of fondness for Sword and Shield. Then Legends Arceus, of course, was a really great experience. I really enjoyed that. And like I said before, I really like Scarlet and Violet. So I feel like they have some of the best story beats of like any Pokemon game we've had in years. Though, you can definitely see a lot of people's statements that the open world really isn't that fun to explore. And especially having played through Legends ZA, where that game has a pretty big map you can explore, and it's also packed with, like, various NPCs that have different side quests you can do. Like, compared to the experience in Scarlet and Violet, yeah, that game was definitely lacking in side activities that I feel would be very fun to do and to distract from, like, the main goals. But I really like the DLC in those games. I thought the DLC was plenty challenging and also offered up lots of cool Pokemon to encounter. Like, especially Ogerpon was such a great Pokemon to get to know. I really enjoyed her story. It was remarkably dark for, like, the backstory of a legendary Pokemon, which I'm all for. I'm definitely of the mindset that Pokemon is a series that obviously is geared towards kids, but there's a lot to enjoy that even adults can really get into it. And yeah, it's definitely one of the highlights of those particular games, getting to see these darker moments that creep through and remind us just how scary the Pokemon world can be sometimes. And of course, Legends ZA was pretty fun. It was nice getting to see Mega Evolutions come back after all these years, and also getting some new Mega Evolutions was quite cool. Especially for some Pokemon that I felt really deserved some new just some new benefits to play around with, like Clefairy and Victory Bell and stuff. That was very fun. Okay, Blocky is 32. So the team has definitely been growing quite a bit. I think we're gonna have Liam lead for the rest of this chunk here. And depending on how things go, just because of our team's current levels, I'm thinking we'll probably start running away from encounters from this point on, because I don't want my team to get too over-leveled. I mean, for Liam, I don't have to worry too much about this, because we're not going to be using him in the next gym. Spoiler warning. Yeah, Grovyle does kind of suffer in terms of performance in the mid-game, just because there are so many gyms in the middle portion of the game where it doesn't do very well in. Like, we have the Fire Gym, where it's obviously going to get eradicated. You have Norman's Gym, where it has some pretty tanky and very strong Pokemon that I don't feel Grovyle's tanky enough to be able to take their hits. And then obviously we have another gym coming up where he can easily get destroyed, because he can't take flying attacks. Yeah, I gotta say, Liam, it's not been a very good time to be using you. But I promise we're going to be reaching a point of the game where he is going to be really damn useful. And there are at least 2 more gyms coming up where he's going to be very, very good at. So we just have to wait for the time to come where we'll finally get to see him being useful in another major battle. Like, my god, the last time we used Liam in a gym fight was against Roxanne. That really says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, he's still a good Pokemon. He's been very handy all throughout this adventure. Just being a very fast and powerful grass type on our side. But like I said, he doesn't get a whole lot of good status moves, which I think is like one of the main draws of using a grass type, as they tend to be more of a supportive Pokemon and more of a strategist, compared to like fire types, which tend to be more of an offensive DPS character, whereas water types tend to be more bulky tanks. And we are almost out of Leaf Blade at this point. Let me tell you, when we eventually do encounter this Pokemon, I am going to be quite happy for a number of reasons. Mainly, I'm quite excited to eventually draw art of this particular Pokemon, so I feel that we could get some good art for our upcoming thumbnails. I definitely been having a lot of fun with some of the thumbnail art I've been doing for this stream series. It's definitely been one of the more ambitious projects I've been doing when it comes to my art, since I've basically been designing a new thumbnail for every single session we've been doing. And we're definitely going to have a lot more opportunities to have some interesting encounters and some situations that are going to call for some more art in a bit. I also don't know at this point if we actually managed to get one of the 6 spots on this map where we could have encountered this Pokemon and just not managed to win the 50-50. Because I've certainly rolled those dice before. I am someone who plays Genshin Impact, and under certain circumstances I've tried to get the event-exclusive characters only to fail the 50-50 and get a more common character instead. But we'll see how things go. Okay, we're out of Leaf Blade, so we're gonna have to resort to Bullet Seed. We actually have plenty of Bullet Seed PP, so shouldn't have to worry too much about this. You should hunt for this specific Pokemon, he said. It will be fun, they said. Yeah, if anybody is watching this VOD in the future, I would not blame you if you decided to skip straight to the moment where we encounter this Pokemon, because this has definitely been a long one. I know that this session has been mostly us trying to hunt after some rare Pokemon, and we haven't had too many battles, but I don't know, this is part of the experience. And having those moments where we want to try and see if we can catch a really rare Pokemon, it just makes it all worthwhile, you know? Just wanting to see if you can roll those dice and actually get something really good. Oh, damn, that sounds rough, Xavier. I know, right? God, I don't know what else we can potentially talk about. Guess to mention some other things that I've been thinking about lately, is I have been wanting to revisit the Legend of Zelda games sometime soon, and especially so we get some more opportunities to play those games here on YouTube. So what I would like to do is go through the game's Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages pretty soon, just get some more practice with those games. And I would eventually like to stream them here. So I feel it'd be pretty fun to go through those games, since they're very similar to Link's Awakening, which I said before is like my favorite Zelda game of all time. And I have previously played for that game on my Twitch, and you can find the VODs from that playthrough here on this channel now. God, we're still gonna be a little while before we get our next VOD uploads, because I know we still have a lot of other games that I played on Twitch we need to upload onto this channel. Right now, I just want to prioritize our Pokemon Sapphire streams for the time being before we do that. But believe me when I say we still got a lot of good games we still have to upload. And I'm very excited to post those particular runs. Oh yeah, you're telling me it's because of those changes that I decided to switch over to doing streams on YouTube. I guess something else I can mention I found quite amusing. So very recently, Lucajin posted a video which is the start of the Let's Play she's doing of Link the Faces of Evil, which, for anyone who is familiar, is part of a very infamous series of games that was released on the Philips CDI back in the day that they had permission from Nintendo in order to develop games using the Mario and Zelda IPs, which led to a series of games that is commonly regarded as the Unholy Triforce. And it's been quite fun getting to see, like, the first session of that game she played. And she also has her wife Claire accompanying her, and just basically laughing at all of Luca's reactions to everything that goes on in that game. See, I'm just seeing her kind of struggling with the gameplay as well as just at the overall mood and feel of that particular game. It's been quite fun to get to see. It's like, for me, obviously, that game is, I wouldn't call it a good game, even though they're playing a version of the game that has been made significantly better. Like, it's a remaster of Faces of Evil done by a fan, in order to make the game actually playable. So that's always nice. It is something I do want to experience at some point. But, like, while I don't gel with the games from a gameplay sense, my god, I find those games just incredible for the frickin' cutscenes and just their portrayals of a lot of characters, especially Link and Zelda. And then, of course, all the characters they made up for the games, like King Harkinian and Guanum and Morshu. And just all the frickin' YouTube poops that people made over the years using these characters from this game. It's just incredible. So I unironically love the Philips CDI Zelda games because of just how insane it is that these games actually exist. It's kind of the same way that I unironically like Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 now, because I know that game is terrible, but I just get a kick out of watching people play for that game, from their reactions to, like, the gameplay, the cutscenes, just how stupid and convoluted the story is in a lot of ways. It's just a fun time experiencing that, you know? It's like, I know at one point I do eventually want to play that game myself. It's just an opportunity to do so hasn't come up yet. But I feel like it's a rite of passage for anyone who's familiar with the Sonic series to get to experience Sonic 06. So that you know that no matter what opinions you may have about Sonic games, they can't get any worse than that. Hello, Sabo. Welcome to the stream here. We are currently doing a Pokemon Sapphire Nuzlocke run, And currently we are stuck hunting a very specific Pokemon that can be found on this route. So we got to try and fish on this route, and we're trying to encounter a Pokemon that only shows up in 6 specific tiles in the water here. So as you can no doubt tell, we have been fishing for quite a while to try and encounter this Pokemon. Oh, come on. Yeah, I feel like since Liam is level 33 at this point, that's puts him on par with the levels of the next gym leader we're going to be facing, so we're going to stop leveling him up there. Just because I don't want him to get too high level compared to everyone else we have. God, how much longer is this gonna take? Like, I am perfectly willing to let this stream go over 2 hours if it means we're able to catch this Pokemon. Man, this is really making me miss doing randomizer runs, because at least when I'm doing those, I can actually run into this Pokemon on just any other route normally. So much easier to do so there. There's also the chance that we could potentially encounter something else in the water that I'm currently not anticipating us to run into, but it could happen. This actually takes me back to when I was doing a playthrough of Pearl, where I was doing a water-type only run of that game, and I was also hunting for this specific Pokemon in that game, in like the one area where you could potentially encounter it. And while I was hunting that thing, I actually managed to run into a shiny Barboach. So that was quite the nice find that I was able to get while trying to hunt for another Pokemon. So I don't know how many other people have noticed this, but there's a series of videos that I like to watch where it's called ASDF Movie, and it's a series of videos of just basically random things happening, and it's just insanely stupid but also brilliant with just how funny these non sequitur very random and crazy moments happen. And very recently they posted a new video from that series. And I got a lot of fun out of that one because a lot of the people who lent their voices to some of the characters in that episode also were voice actors in the show The Amazing Digital Circus, which is something that I'm obviously quite fond of. So I really got a kick out of that. Especially the fish hat one, and the guy was like, "I steal cheese, can't catch me, hee 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 hee," and then he gets interrupted by being shot with a gun. God, that was a very fun video. I got a kick of that, especially as someone who has watched a lot of Digital Circus lately. Oh, come on. Why did I think this would be a good idea? I could have caught a regular Pokemon in the grass, and then we could have just moved on with our lives. But I had to descend into insanity. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, in that instance, at least when I figure out which tile has that specific Pokemon, then, like, hunting it will be so much easier, you know? I don't even know what I'm going to be doing for the rest of today after this. We still have a whole route to explore, but at this point we are close to the 2-hour point. You know, the sad part is, we're not going to even be able to access the next section of this route that has water on it until we advance the story a bit. So I know that there is a good chance that it should appear in this specific part of the route. But if we end up rolling not so well, then we'll probably need to begin hunting in another area, depending on how things go. If the worst comes to worst, then we'll probably try to spend the next session just clearing up everything else on this route before we try another crack at hunting this Pokemon, but we'll see. I am sorry for the lack of commentary at this point, but I really cannot think of anything else to say at this point. Guess I could say that since we're about mid-February right now, I've noticed that it's been getting a bit warmer lately, so maybe we should be seeing some of the snow starting to melt. That'd be quite nice. Certainly like it, since up here in the north, just the snow has been piling up so much. It's been rather nasty to try to move the way things are right now. So I definitely like that to be cleared up. I mean, at the very least, I don't have to worry about driving since I don't have a car or a license, but still be pretty awkward to have to move around with all this snow piled up. So I think another thing that I could say with regards to fishing, I believe if you have a Pokemon with the ability Suction Cups, I believe that actually increases the chance of actually managing to reel in a Pokemon. And I believe I do have a Pokemon with Suction Cups, but I don't feel it would be a good opportunity to have you in the party for this, just because they're not trained up. They're not on par with the Pokemon we've been countering over here. So I don't feel like that would be very good. We should be fine as long as we're just persistent at this. We'll eventually find what we need. I am just prepared for this session to take, like, a really long time. It's like thinking back to some of my early days of streaming on Twitch, because I remembered some of my stream sessions would go pretty long, and I think some of them did actually go to around 3 hours at some point. And these days, I'm just thinking, God, I do not have the energy to stream for 3 hours. I do not know how some people like Ray and Iron Mouse are able to do this for so long. I mean, they also take, like, frequent breaks in the middle of their stream sessions. So that would definitely explain a bit. I've just been playing non-stop for nearly 2 hours. Gods, I cannot imagine how some people are able to do this. Yeah, that is so much. That's like a full day's a shift. Like, Jesus. Also, 12 hours is just straight up half a day. I could not imagine doing all that. I am very thankful I'm in a position where, like, I have another job so that I can just stream recreationally. I'm just purely doing this as a hobby. I don't have to worry about chasing, like, algorithms and stuff and trying to build a big audience. It's like, this is just something I want to do because it's fun to me. And I like getting to share my experiences with video games with other people. But this is an experience that I wouldn't want to share with anyone. It's like, certainly something that I would rather endure myself and not have anyone else have to suffer through it. Alright, we are officially 2 hours into this session. And we still have not encountered the Pokemon that I want to catch on this route. Why did I think this was a good idea? I am so sick of encountering the same Pokemon over and over again. And we're not even in the section of the game where we're gonna be in the water for so long of our sessions. We just been on the one route. Only explored a little bit of this river. When people say that this game is too much water, they're not referring to this specific route. But we're still here anyway. I'm starting to be very concerned about our trainer right now. I still have power points for Bullet Seed. He's not commanding me to attack anymore. Okay, let's try by this bank here. on. You know, playing this game on this specific date really has not done me any favors. I mean, at the very least, we haven't had any fatalities yet in this run. God, at this point, since it's past 5, that means Emil's already posted his next video. So that's probably going to be a good one, because he's probably going to be fighting the Cianwood gym leader. That'll be a fun time. Especially with his current team. I guess something else I can mention is I've been really happy about some of the recent streams I've been watching from the channel Legends of Avantris. How they are pretty far into their Once Upon a Witchlight campaign that they've been doing. And yeah, it's just been a pretty fun time getting to watch their recent streams, as they're pretty much in the end game and are in the process of gathering the last things they need in order to be able to face what's probably going to be the final challenge of the module they're playing. So it's definitely very exciting to get to see that. So definitely looking forward to what's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks with regards to their D&D sessions. Also want to check out some of the other stuff they've been doing as well. Because there's certainly been a lot of things they've done over the years that I want to check out. Not just their Witchlight campaign, which has been amazing. I've really loved what they have done in this one. Especially because of the characters they come up with are all very funny. Like, I love their dynamics. Especially Torbeck. He is such a fun Oh my god! Oh my god, we finally got it! All we had to do was mention Torbeck, and our luck turned around. This is the Pokemon I have been hunting for over an hour to get. This is Feebas. This Pokemon is basically the Magikarp of the Hoenn region. But besides being very common, it's instead very rare. Only showing up on this route in 6 specific tiles. Yeah, this thing is such a pain to get. But we have finally got one. And you are a boy. That's pretty interesting for this specific Pokemon. Feebas, the fish Pokemon. While Feebas's body's in tatters, it is a hardy and tenacious life force that enables it to live anywhere. However, this Pokemon's also slow and dim-witted, making it an easy catch. You are not an easy catch, my friend! So what are we going to name you? Alright, thinking of a few different options, and I actually got an idea that would be pretty fitting given your species. No, Javier, we're not naming him that. I was thinking we could name you Finnegan. Oh my god, we actually managed to get it. Oh man, this is quite good, as you can no doubt tell from the tone of my voice. So I have very rarely had the opportunity to actually use this Pokemon, let alone in a Nuzlocke run. So I am going to take advantage of this so much. Yeah, in terms of some of the other things we could have ran into on this route, this area on the eastern side of Hoenn is pretty much a rainforest. So we're going to be encountering a lot of grass-type Pokemon here in the grass. Quite a few which are fairly common, but there's also some pretty rare and elusive ones that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. But we're not going to worry about that right now, because I want to check on our new catch. Oh my god, I am so happy we actually managed to catch it. And considering where we currently are in the map, this gives us a good opportunity to actually see about raising you up depending on how things go. So, Feebas. It's quite the unique Pokemon. If you want to evolve it in the later games, it's a trait evolution, but only holding a specific item. Here in Generation 3, however, you are Hasty Nature. That one's actually not too bad. It's not the most beneficial for you. So this Pokemon, like I said before, is basically the Magikarp of the Hoenn region. It learns the exact same moves in the exact same order that Magikarp does. However, unlike Magikarp, Feebas can actually learn HMs and TMs. So you can give it Surf, you can give it Ice Beam from the game corner. It can actually be pretty decent, though obviously at this point, its stats are quite low, with the exception of Special Defense and Speed, remarkably enough. But what we want for this Pokemon, and trust me on this because this process is going to be quite interesting for us to do. So this Pokemon evolves specifically by raising a contest stat. Yeah, you remember how the Pokedex said there was a very drab Pokemon with a very tattered appearance to it? Yeah, this thing is usually seen as a very unremarkable and ugly Pokemon. And if we're gonna get this thing to grow, we need to increase its beauty. And to do that, we need to use our Pokeblocks. So specifically, we want to use any Pokeblocks that increase a Pokemon's beauty. So feeding them dry Pokeblocks are the key here. So let's feed a bunch of these to Finnegan and see what we're able to get. So you have a hasty nature, so that means you benefit from things that taste sweet, but not from things that taste sour. So we're going to want to remember that as we're raising this guy up. So don't feed him anything that would increase just don't feed him anything that will increase toughness, and we should be good. I'm also not entirely sure how much the program that I use to run this game in order to access certain evolutions is going to affect this too much. Because in normal games, well, some of the more recent ones, this would be a... this would turn into a... Oh yeah, you seem to really like the Indigo Pokeblocks, so I might focus on giving those to you from this point on. Okay, so we're gonna need to make more of these. So, let's go over to Route 117. Yeah, you got a nature that benefits speed, so it would be best if we feed you things that increase both speed and, well, cuteness as well as beauty. So we're going to be heading into the place here, and let's make some berries. Kelp Seed Berry I don't think is going to be that good here. Let's just check our tags and see what we get. So that's bitter and sour. That's not good. Nanub is sweet and bitter. And Block is dry and sweet. Okay, so we're going to be using all of our Bluckberries. I feel like these would be the best ones we can do. So yeah, this is quite the interesting Pokemon when it comes to managing to level up their... just getting to raise this Pokemon, as it's purely a Pokemon that's based around contests and building up one of its contest stats in order to make it to evolve. Quite the very interesting Pokemon, I must say. It's a very unique one, but trust me when I say, it is phenomenal when we manage to get you raised up. So yeah, we're going to be focusing on our Bluckberries here, because I feel like these should raise your stat the best out of all of our options. Yeah, I am very excited about this, as you can obviously tell from my tone of voice. We were actually able to catch the Pokemon I wanted on that route. It took so long for us to do that. So, if you want to get the best results with Pokeblocks, I would recommend playing this together with friends, as trying to achieve the highest score possible with your friends will give you higher level Pokeblocks, which will also enhance the stats of your Pokemon more. So that's what you want to go for when it comes to raising certain Pokemon, when it comes to their contest stats. And also makes it very beneficial for raising up Feebas. Okay, doing quite nicely so far. Only got 2 more Bluckberries. So I don't know if we have enough to max out Finnegan's condition. So we're gonna have to check in a bit. But yeah, typically you want to feed a Pokemon Pokeblocks that they have a strong affinity to. So if a Pokemon likes the taste of a sweet berry, then you want to make Pokeblocks that have sweet flavor to them, as they'll gain the biggest benefit from consuming them. Which is what we are doing here by using our Bluckberries, as they are both dry and sweet in flavor. And that's what Finnegan likes when it comes to his flavors. He likes sweetness. So this will be raising his stats even more compared to some of our other options. So I don't know if you need to max out a contest stat in order to get this evolution, or if it just needs to be really high. Like, I don't know what the threshold is, but just try your best with this and you should be good. So I believe that is all of our Bluckberries. We also have raspberries that I believe could be good as well, but... ah, shoot, I can't actually exit out of here, can I? I guess because this is also a dry berry, we could use a Chesto. We'll just do this and then exit out. So typically just check the level of whatever berries and Pokeblocks you make, and use those to determine what would be the best for your Pokemon when it comes to raising their contest stats. I know I already went over this before when we did our little contest session back in... God, what was it? Session 5? The one where we challenged Watson? God, it's hard to believe that one is so far away from now. That is level 12, field 23. Alright, we're done making Pokeblocks here. So yeah, I don't know if we are going to be needing this system, or depending on how things are with the randomizer that... Well, not randomizer, but I use that specific program in order to make it so certain evolutions would be more accessible. But for the case of Finnegan here... Yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna affect him in any way. I don't want to use Trainer Eyes, I want to check condition. So at this point... we only got about 4 sparkles there. Your beauty is already quite high, so... let's just try to max out your condition by feeding you some more Pokeblocks. I know it's been a really weird session right now, but I just want to see if we can get this to happen. So I don't know if it's the Pokeblock level or the feel that is the most beneficial for raising a stat. But we should be good with the amount of Pokeblocks we currently have. So I believe that the total condition you can have for a Pokemon can go up to 10 sparkles around them. So as long as we are just persistent and give him the Pokeblocks that he likes, this should improve his stats to the point where he will be high enough for this to happen. God, I hope that we're actually able to do this. Alright, looks like his condition is about halfway done. So, we're getting there. Just gotta keep enhancing these stats. Alright, that's all of our Indigos. So, now we gotta rely on Blue. There's still quite a bit of his condition we can still fill up. So, you'll take that blue one. As I think we have room for... probably 2 or 3 more Pokeblocks that we could give him. Alright, so let's try making some more. I know this has been a really weird session, but trust me, I have so much energy in me now that we've actually managed to catch this Pokemon. Let's check our Kelpsy berries we got. Nah, that's dry but bitter and sour, and you do not like sour flavor. So I feel like we are done with those. Let's check Oran berries. So that's a mix of all flavors. And I think Leppa is pretty similar, except no dryness. What about Persim? That's a mix of everything. And Citrus is a mix of everything. Yes, I feel like at this point we just need to feed you Chesto berries. I think those are going to be our big thing that we're going to need to give you at this point. I don't know if this is actually going to work, depending on how things are with this game. Depending on the program I use, his evolution method should either be normal, or it could be changed to a regular level up evolution. I'm not sure which one will be which, but I'll figure this out very soon. So, we're going to be trying to see if we can get Finnegan leveled up, and then we'll just see how things go from here. Let's make 2 more blue Pokeblocks, and we should be good. So obviously the best thing you want to do if you're raising a Feebas is to try and get one with a nature where they like dry flavors, which is also good because that improves a special attack, which is really good for this particular Pokemon. But, you know, having one with plus speed is also pretty good. It's just not the best when it comes to raising up your contest stats. Oh, come on. Gotta make the blender spin fast. That gets us the best results. Okay, we got 1 more we should be able to make, and then that'll be it. I believe. Alright, that was pretty good. So that should do it with our Pokeblocks. Let's feed what we've got, and this should be it. Here you go, Finnegan. Okay, now that we can see that the sparkles around him have made a full ring, that means that his condition is now maxed out. He will no longer eat any more Pokeblocks. So, we now have to pray that his condition is good enough where we can get this to happen. And we did find a rare candy at the start of this session. Let's try this. That didn't work. I want to say his condition is high enough to trigger an evolution. So I think the specific program that I use to enable certain evolutions, like for Graveler's evolution, that might have canceled out this potential thing in order to evolve Feebas. So potentially we might be able to trigger an evolution simply by leveling you up to a certain point. But sadly, I don't know where that specific point is. Okay, so I think we are going to call things here for today, because this session has been going on way longer than should have been necessary. I'm going to figure out what we can do with Finnegan, and in between sessions, we should hopefully see a potential change in this team member, and then we'll be heading off to the rest of Route 119, and then we're going to see if we can fully make our way to our next destination, which will hopefully lead us to a new gym battle. So until next time, have a good day, and take care.